Okay, today we have, I can't pronounce it right. Is it Felipe Solotro?
Soltero.
Soltero.
Soltero. You got the first name good.
Yeah,
Felipe.
I just couldn't get the back. So we're
A
going
lot
to
of
just
people
jump right
say
in it because I
Philip.
know we both got a little stuff to do. So where are you from?
I'm originally from Bridgeport, Connecticut. I was born and raised in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Um, I did live in Puerto Rico. I spent, part of my childhood over there. But before high school, I came back to the States uh, and been living in Connecticut for most of the time. I currently am in San Francisco. Uh, I I moved here. I want to say 10 years ago, around 2016, like the beginning of 2016.
Yeah.
So I'm San Francisco native, I guess. Not native, but uh, I'm
Yeah.
resident now. It's
You
been
like it
10
over there?
years. Huh? Oh,
You
I
like
love
it?
it. The first after the first 2 weeks that I moved here, I just knew this is where I needed to be. I felt at home. It felt more home than even back home in Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
I just knew it. I just had it in me. I went around and I just like, wow, this is where I like to be. You know, it wasn't planned out that way in the beginning, but it was
Hey, but
just
it
like,
worked out, right?
yeah, it worked out, and so far it has. It worked out. It's been working out really great for me. I've been lucky.
I was making a trip to come up to California, but man, I'm scared of them gas prices up there.
The what?
Gas prices. How high y'all gas is up
I think
there?
gas prices are bad everywhere, but
Well,
yeah,
it's $3 here, 3.49.
oh yeah,
Yeah. So you
yeah.
have any social networks you want to promote?
Yes, I'm active on Instagram and Facebook, and it's under Soltero, which is my last name, and ART, which art. So Soltero art. So Instagram slash Soltero art, and the same thing with Facebook slash Soltero art. But usually when I post on either or, they kind of just sort of sends it to the same thing. So, but I've been obviously everybody's been into Facebook uh, since the early. I was in MySpace before, and that's
Oh,
still
yeah.
on it.
Were you ever on WCA? That's why I thought I remembered you from, or maybe I just remembered you from
I
being in the
think
network.
so. You know what? God, that's going back. Um,
That go way back.
yeah, I go way back. That's what I'm saying. So I think we've known each other from back then. We just never really met or talked to each other or anything.
Yeah.
But I was even in forums before that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
So
MySpace. There's a lot of people on MySpace and all of that too.
yeah.
That's why I met oh, I can't think of his name now. He passed, but R.I.P. Um. So how long have you been airbrushing?
I want to say 40 years. I'm old school, man.
40. Yeah.
So yeah, I would say it's about. I started my art career. I would say late, probably when I was like 19, maybe 18. When I kind of just decided to take it more seriously. Um, but yeah, I would say give and take, a couple of years, about 40 years. I've been airbrushing. So.
So what was the catalyst? What was the first that drew you to airbrush compared to traditional painting?
Um, I was in the mall back in Connecticut at the time. It was called Trumbull Mall, and I saw an artist working on a canvas at that time, and he was doing very. I don't. I wish I knew the guy's name. I think I only saw him twice. I never really kind of caught um, his information as far as who he was. But that was my first exposure to airbrushing because he was doing like sort of like galactical, like universe kind of cool little like scenes and stuff like that. So he was doing stars and planets and stuff like that in a very very cool way. And that's when I saw him with the gun, and he was just like, and I'm like, what is that, you know? And I'm looking, I was like, he's not even touching the surface, and it's just shooting this color through it and everything like that. and that's when it got me intrigued. You know what I'm saying? Um, and then I think maybe not even that, not even a year later, um, there was another artist in same mall. He was doing T-shirt work, so T-shirt art, and that's when I saw it. And I even purchased a shirt from him. Um, I want to say his name too, and I can never. I'm horrible with that. Um, but that was the time where I was like, this is really cool. You know, I
Yeah.
was like, and that's where my interest started getting into that, and I was just like really getting into it. You know, I was like, no, this is my. I want to try this. I want to see if I get into airbrushing.
So are you self taught? Are you like got a crew? Are you?
Yes, that's. I was from the beginning. I was like just researching. At that time, there was Airbrush Action
Yeah.
magazine.
Yeah.
So that was literally my, you know, sort of, I want to say my teacher, but that was where I was getting introduced to what the brands were, what the airbrush or what the airbrush industry was doing. And that's how I ended up getting my first airbrush. I'm
What
sure
was
that's
the
one.
first airbrush?
Yeah. So, and it was a HPC that I got
A
at the
water?
time. What a HPC, yeah.
Oh, you started out a big dog. Most people say they started out with Badgers or the Paches. You
Well,
started
I
out
did
with
my
a water.
research. I did my, you know, I was watching the magazine and I was like, well, the pros are using this Iwata brand, you know, and it was a little higher end. I invested, you know, so I still have it here. It's still working.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
I
Yeah,
still
them some
have it in my
monsters,
studio,
man.
and I still use that guy. I take care of my guns, man. You know, it's like they're my babies. You know, that's what I do with it and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're your money makers.
Yeah. So the air. I mean, I still use that. I mean, I mainly use the Eclipse, the HPBCS ones, the siphon feed,
Mhm.
just because of doing T-shirts and stuff like that. I was able to kind of just it makes it easier for me to work with the bottles and stuff like that. But when I got my first Eclipse, that's when I was like I got turned on. I was like, this is a good gun.
Yeah.
You know, it was
Let,
a
let,
good
let-
all around gun. I was
yeah.
able to really pull off really detailed work with it and pop it out and really get thick lines and stuff like that. And it was very versatile gun, I would say. So when people ask me, what gun, when they're starting out, I always recommend an Eclipse because it's a very good versatile gun where you can kind of just pretty much tackle anything with it, you
Yeah.
know. So
So, on your first breakthrough, do you remember the very first piece where you thought you had it down pat, where you got it down?
um yes, I do. It was my trying with the airbrush. I did a portrait of a female, and it was just very simple. I did a lot of masking because I didn't have full control then, how to do it all freehand. So I used a lot of masking, but just the shading and stuff like that. And I did that one painting, and I'm like, you know what, this is I think I have this. I figured it out. How to use it. It was playing with it. It was I'm a very patient person. I mean that I think that's probably my best quality as an artist is that I'm very patient. I understand things take time. So, and it's just going at it. I don't really get upset and expect to get anything done right away. You know what I'm saying? It takes just time. So, but after I did that portrait of the female, um, I realized, oh, this is pretty good. And then I decided to do a portrait of myself, and I'm like, oh, I suck. so,
Yeah.
because it was after I did it, I was like, oh, this sucks.
Uh,
I was like, I need some practice, you know. But
wait,
then I
wait.
realized I humbled myself. I was like, okay, I thought I was pretty good, and then I realized I was like, you know what? There's a lot of things that I haven't tackled yet. You know,
Yeah.
and I guess it's because and I tell people if you're doing yourself, you're a bit more picky because you know what you look like. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
worked. That worked out. That was a good a humbling uh, situation where I was like, okay, I need some work.
Did you have any influences when you first started? Like, did you want to copy a certain person's style, or you just
Um,
got your own style?
there were so many. I'm just trying to think of my top, like I would say, artists that I kind of looked up to. Drew Blair was one, and one stage where you can't go wrong with him. You know what I'm saying? Like he just when I saw his first pieces and stuff like that, I was like, this is airbrush. And I was like, I mean, you
Oh yeah,
can.
you set the bar high when you were with Drew Blair.
Oh yeah, no, because I was in the magazines and stuff like that, and I'm looking at his ads. He had that one ad of the Budweiser where it was just the ice on it and everything like that,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is airbrush. I can't believe it. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of like that. I like to just challenge myself a lot. So, but that was a certain stage in my life where I was like, okay, that's an inspiration, and this is kind of like a goal. I want to be able to pull that off to do realism for a while. But there's inspirational artists depending on what I'm doing. I tackled everything from T-shirt to canvas to automotive to what I'm saying. So anything that can still stand long enough. I mean, I was doing body painting, face painting, everything. So I dabbed into everything. So there's always an artist on each of those fields that I always looked up to and stuff like that. Um, Obviously, Mike LaValle, when it came to automotive, I,
Oh
I
yeah.
just liked his flames and stuff like that. Rest in peace. I was fortunate enough to meet him at one of the SEMA, like shows and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool. Like he was on my bucket list as somebody that I wanted to meet.
Did you
And
used to go out to the meetups? To
yeah,
those book meetups? Yeah.
yeah, I met him at the SEMA show. Well, I was there representing Greg's Airbrush at the time. So, and I did that for them for about 10 years in a row, I was very lucky to do that for them. Um, but I met a lot of people. I pretty much met everybody on my bucket list as far as artists that I used to look up to, um, which I found myself very lucky to do that. I'm trying to think. Terry Hill, when it came to t-shirt art, he was like my first artist that I saw on the magazine, um, that I was like, well, this is kind of cool. You can kind of do like, garment art, you know? And I found that was my beginnings of how to say, approach airbrushing in a sense where it was because with garment art it's a little bit more forgiving, so you have a little more leeway to make mistakes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you're not pressured to do very thin lines or have a really steady
Especially with
handle.
automotive. Yeah, it's a different. It, I feel like it's two different animals because the processing
Yeah.
is different.
Oh yeah. But
So it's more automotive has more work involved in it, I believe.
yeah, I did automotive for, I want to say, 8 to 10 years. Um, and I mean, I loved anything creative, so I loved working with the airbrush and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
there was a point where I realized that I felt like a chemist. There's so much, mixing and making sure temperature's right, and then prepping, and there's all this stuff that for me just felt too tedious, and it just didn't feel creative or artistic enough. It did at the point where I was finally airbrushing on something, that was only that small portion of the process of getting something done like that, uh, that I enjoyed the most. Um, so I did it for a while, and then eventually I was like, okay, I want to get into something that I'm more, um, that I feel more comfortable with. Not I want to say comfortable with, but that I enjoyed more.
Yeah.
And that's when I tried getting into fine art, working on canvas, doing portraits, doing random stuff, being more creative, a bit more loose with my work, and I felt at home when I started working with more like fine art and working on canvas work.
You like doing like the realism stuff as opposed to like the bunnies and the rainbows and stuff like that.
I got into realism just as a challenge, to see if I can go that far with it. And I did it for, and I still can do it. You know, I still, when I take commission work, like I'll do like commission portrait work, I tend to go towards realism on that. But I did it just to see how far I can go with it, and I did enjoy it after a while. And then I sort of got, I want to say I got bored with it, but it was like, okay, now I don't want to say I mastered it, but I got to the point where I was like, cool, I can kind of duplicate anything, you know, as detailed as I can see it, you know, and I can pull it off that way. And in my head, it was like, okay, what's the next challenge? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, so I always try to challenge myself and see what am I not, what am I, what's new that I haven't done yet. So, but I always recommend, as far as a skill to learn, is to try realism, as far as you can go with it,
That's
because
it.
yeah, because once you get to that point, um, and you don't have to do it all the time, but that helps your skill when it becomes something a little bit more simpler. You can use those skills, and it makes it easier for you to kind of pull off certain things. Um,
I see. I noticed some artists like for instance myself is like I we once we master something we move to the next, but we stop right there. We don't go no further. Like I do caricatures, but I don't do the realism. I can't.
yeah,
I don't know for some reason. I gotta add black outline on my portraits, and so
yeah,
yeah, I just never went that way. I worked on all
yeah.
my other stuff.
Well, I mean, you're very lucky enough to find what you like doing, working with, and that's why that's how I was. I wanted to try every little thing, every little aspect of the industry. So I try caricature too, and I love doing that stuff too. And every chance I get, I try to do that. But my realism background tries to throw in the detail work. So when you see my caricatures, they have a very like really realistic look to it sometimes, because I still throw in a lot of those details on there.
Yeah,
Um,
that's. Hold on, I'm
yeah.
having technical difficulties.
Uh-oh.
My light. I forgot to charge my light up. There.
Ah, there you go. Now I can see
Yeah,
it.
I'm back.
I know you kind of went dark for a while, and I was like, wait, you disappeared on me.
Darwin said Felipe he has good stories. Just came by to say hi real quick.
Uh,
Darwin.
oh, Darwin. Oh man, say hi to him. Yeah, that's the man right there.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
out.
As a matter of fact, I got a gig for him this Saturday.
So yeah.
I've been doing a lot of work for Airbrush Brothers. I've been very lucky to connect with them. Um, very, very well. They got their shit together.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So I
He gets
love
a lot
working
of.
with them.
He gets a lot of work.
Yeah.
So as far as freehand and stenciling, do you which way you prefer more? You like to how much of your work relies on pure freehand trigger or control versus custom shields?
I like as much as I can to do everything freehand. Um, I I use loose stencils, depending on whatever it is the project that I'm doing. I've been using more stenciling when I do gigs like for Darwin, where it's just like throwing in backgrounds and stuff like that. Just those loose stencils, just to knock out the background
Yeah, yeah,
stuff like that. But as far as like this actually drawing something, either whether it's on a t-shirt or on a canvas, I try to use as little as stenciling or masking as possible. Um, I like to just be loose with my stuff. If I need a hard edge, yes, I use like some kind of loose stencil and throw that in there, but it's something that I'll hold. I rarely have to use tape or mask anything out. I definitely recommend it, for starting out. Um, and if you're, let's say, on like in the t-shirt industry where you're working really fast on party events and stuff like that, and you want to knock out something really quick, that's the way to go. You know what I'm saying? You just like get the outline done or whatever it is, and then pop it in, and then you can just go in and fill in the
yeah.
rest. So it has its advantages on in that sense, where it's you must have it. I have tons of stencils, and here that I use and I still use. I like using loose stencils when I'm doing fine art on a lot of things. I like the
Like the
textures,
curves.
the texture stencils where they
Oh
have
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I love using those. The Gerald Mendez stencils, the texture stuff. I love. I got every single one of them, um, and I like using that stuff. But like the loose stuff to just to give background, texture
Yeah,
background.
yeah, yeah. Ed said Chino stencils are cool. You use Chino
Yeah,
stencils? Or?
I get a couple his stencils and stuff like that. I want to buy a couple more from him too. But yeah, he's the man when it comes to that too.
Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, we good?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I still got people message me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Um, so paint. Which paint do you use?
Currently, ETAC and for a combination of ETAC and actually golden fluids when it comes to my fine art. Um, with obviously with t-shirts and hats and more garment art is strictly ETAC. When I'm doing my fine art, I use golden fluids. I found their paints. They even have a bit more watered down version, which is designed for airbrush, and that's been working well for me. Um, I started out obviously using Createx when I first started out because that was the only thing out there back then.
Yeah.
Um, but Bill Edwards uh, sent me a set when he contacted me, and since I used that paint, I fell in love. I was like, this is all I'm using now, and I've never had a problem with it.
That's the E-Tech, right?
Yeah, E-Tech.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that black. I was in Vegas. I was Critex Wicked, and then I went to Vegas and I saw a Jamocha painting. Man, that black was black. I was like, man, I need to give me some of that. And I asked him what it was. He told me
Yeah,
that. So I've
no,
been
it's
using
a
black.
really good black.
Yeah,
It's a very good black. I mean, all their colors are good depending on what you're trying to get the effect on. I just like the versatility of the E-Tech product where you have your extend air, which you can add, and I would say thin out, but give it a more translucency to the paint if you want it to be, a little smoother in that sense. Um, and the reduced air to just slow down the drying time on it. It's almost like I would say like with the automotive when you're trying to slow down the drying time on that too. But obviously I know a little bit more about E-Tech because I was an artist in residence with E-Tech with Bill Edwards and Chris Marbut back in Alabama when they were there. So
Ed said, "What do you use for white?"
I still use E-Tech, believe it or not. I'm hearing no, trust me, and I'm very open minded with a lot of things. So I'm hearing what's the brand that they're using now for white? Oh God,
Jacquard,
what? Huh?
Jacquard. Is
Yeah, I
it
think
Jacquard?
so. I think that's the
Yeah,
one.
it's good, but you can't use it on. You can't use it on. I mean, it's a good white. I don't know if you can see. I'm using it on. Well, you probably can't see,
Oh wow, yeah.
but it's a pretty good white. But you can't use it on. Like I do a lot of baseball helmets. I can't use it
Ah,
on baseball helmets because I can't clear. It don't clear right. It doesn't
oh
clear.
really?
Yeah, orange peels every time you put a clear on top of it.
Oh
So
okay.
I was like, nah, I can't use. I can use it for shirts, but I can't. So when I'm painting helmets, I got to remember to switch bottles.
Yeah, I've been happy with the E-Tech. But if there's, I honestly, my before E-Tech was in the picture, my white go-to was Aquaflow.
Yeah, in the
That was
beginning.
like that stuff was like chalk. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? That was the brightest white. okay, it will maybe clog up your airbrush once in a while, but when it came out, man, that stuff was white.
It was good. It was, yeah, that
I
was
would
good.
do one pass and I'm good. I'd have to do several passes just to get a good bright white on that. I mean, this is speaking like t-shirts and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that is, are they still in biz? I haven't seen really.
Yeah, I think Ed just bought a 32 ounce the other day. I think they're expensive. I think he said they were really expensive.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know. I'll have to check it out. But
It,
they were my go-to white when I was into that. There was a Uric brand that I came out one time. That I love their paints. Well, his paints. Uric, uh, that artist Uric came up with a series of paints, and I fell in love with that. But that was short-lived. I don't think they sell those anymore.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
I,
it
it
was
was one of the
short-lived.
podcasts. But one of the podcasts, one of the artists said he uses what's that? Gesso.
Gesso?
Yeah.
Oh, like, oh, really?
Water it down a little bit,
Oh,
give
really?
it a little fluid, and they use gesso. I don't know, man. Whatever works.
It depends on the application because gesso is good for like a good, I mean, that is definitely white. How do you get gessos to go shoot through the airbrush? That's insane.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
It had to be gesso. I think that's what it was. It
well,
wasn't silk
there are
screening.
different types of gesso. I mean, depending how the pigment on that, if it's really fine, I'm sure if you water it down, it'll actually go through the airbrush. But I might have tried that once, and I needed like a larger gun for that. Um,
Yeah, I think
to
it'd be
shoot.
fine. I used to run one shot through mine. I used to paint one shot.
Boy, I remember using one shot through my airbrush once and didn't really clean it that well, and it was
Oh
done.
yeah. You might as well throw it away after that.
No, I did. I had to. That thing was that needle would not come out.
Yeah, once you let
that
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 set,
was
it's
like
over with.
cemented right into the airbrush, and I'm like, okay, I'm not airbrushing with this stuff.
Yeah, you gotta throw that stuff right in the. But you gotta worry about throwing it in the cleaner because it's gonna mess the gaskets up.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember using that once, and I was lesson learned. There's a lot of airbrushes that I had ruined because of trying different products and stuff here and there with it. But one shot is leave it to pinstriping or
Yeah, this is
or
for
sign painting.
yeah. The
Like if some yeah.
you ever had a shop? You had a physical shop, or you just always just floated?
I when I started airbrushing, well, I'll give you sort of a short backstory. Um, bef- Before I really got seriously into airbrushing, um, I went into Institute of Art in Connecticut. Connecticut Institute of Art is really called CIA. And I got a bachelor's degree in illustration and in commercial art. In the process of doing that, they had airbrush classes in there too, on top of topography and life drawing and all the other stuff. I would say halfway into going to school, I realized I wanted to be more of a fine artist than a commercial artist, but I went through the whole curriculum and finished it off. And in the process of doing that for a couple of years, I was getting, better at airbrushing and stuff like that, and decided to um, sort of start my own business, airbrushing. And I literally was just out in front of my apartment on the sidewalk. I I would put clothesline and put T-shirts that I airbrushed on there and just sell it that way. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah,
was in the ghetto, but and I was just out there and I put my easel out there and an airbrush live so people as they walk by they can see me airbrushing a T-shirt and stuff like that to kind of attract the crowd. Um, that didn't really do well as far as you know productively making a good business, but it was my first step of going out there and say, hey, I'm doing airbrushing, let me see how this works out. um, I opened up a shop with a buddy of mine, an airbrush artist too, um, Phil Lewis, and we decided to open up a shop in a flea market in New York City. Um, that did pretty well at the beginning, but it wasn't enough to run the business there. I think the amount of foot traffic wasn't high enough for us to kind of just survive in there. Um, it was flea market crowd. So you're getting a lot of haggling. Everybody didn't never wanted to
Everybody.
pay, and no matter what price you give them, the thing could have been worth $25, and you say $3, they're like, you do $2. I'm like, saying, that was just the mentality in there, and I was just kind of getting tired of that too. So I got out of that. Um, I tried other. I'm trying to think of any other venues and stuff like that. But my first actual like working in an airbrush shop um, was an opportunity that was given to me by this t-shirt and tie store called My Tie. And we connected there, and I opened up because the guy that ran the business, he sold every type of t-shirt, every type of tie that you can get. If it existed, he has it, or he can get his hands on it. And the only thing that he was missing was customizing it. If it didn't exist, he wanted to be able to make it for somebody. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I came in. So I did. That was actually in the mall, the actual mall that I actually got inspired by the other artists that I was exposed to. So we opened up. He opened up a store, t-shirt and tie store, and I was the airbrush artist in there. And I did that for a couple of years, and it was very lucrative. It was probably my first exposure to actually getting real foot traffic and doing, a lot of orders and stuff like that in mall business. And I did that very well. Um, I got out of that situation just because of disagreements with percentage of what the store was getting and what I was getting as far as all that stuff. A long story on that, but we just didn't agree. But we agreed to just kind of, part my ways and just kind of leave the business. So, but
Money is always money will always mess it up for everybody.
yeah, and I would try to always work it out, and really what initiated the whole disagreement is because he was getting ready to sign uh, I want to say a 10-year lease or something like that for the mall. And that required upgrading the store, upgrading everything. And in the contract, he had put that I needed to guarantee him, you know, at least 5 years into the business, and blah blah blah. And if I had to walk away, that I had somebody to kind of cover for me as far as doing the airbrushing and stuff like that. And I agreed to all that. I just said, well, let's work out the percentage. Where we've been doing this for business for a while, and I know that a bulk of that, if not almost a larger bulk of what his business was coming in, was through airbrushing. So he was doing really well on that, and I know it because I was there. I was doing it day in day
Yeah.
out. So, but he wasn't budging on that. He wanted that large percentage of that. And I was just, you know what? Nah. And at that point, I was like ready to almost like open up my own kiosk. So I said, well, let me try that. Let me just try it on my own. Never really ended up working on the kiosk. I actually got a job that was totally unrelated to art in a sense. I worked for like, because I had like Photoshop skills. I did some Photoshopping for this environmental company at that time. And I still did the airbrushing, but that was kind of like it took a backseat in a sense, you know.
Ed
But
said there's a big graffiti community in San Francisco. Have you been inspired by it?
that was one of the things that I realized when I first moved here. That I realized, oh, this is where I need to be because there was art everywhere. You see graffiti and you see murals and you see art. I mean, even like businesses get their signs done still by hand on some of the
Oh,
places,
wow.
which was you know, like everything was vinyl back where I was on the
Everything,
East
yeah, it
Coast.
became final.
You know what I'm saying? It just became vinyl. I'm like, wow, they're still having like sign artists in here doing stuff like this. So that's cool. So the art community was so strong here that I was like, this is I love it. You know what I'm saying? I felt more respected here. I felt like I was, you know, I was part of the whole community in that sense. And that's what, you know, made me realize I was like, this is where I need to be. I felt at home in here. So I haven't, you know what, believe it, in the 10, almost 10 years that I've been here, I haven't done a mural yet.
Oh no,
No,
what do you have?
I'm in the works. Um, I'm in the works to getting maybe a couple opportunities to do that. But it's like I know myself, I want really to make an impact. You know, I want whatever mural I do, I want it to really just make an impact here. Because there's some murals in here that I was just like, wow, I was just blown
These
away.
people, some of those guys are unbelievable. How they get out there and do it.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever heard of BIP. His stuff here is insane.
Oh wow.
It's
Have you did any
insane.
windows, like windows art?
Yeah,
Like
I
what?
do that. That I've done a couple of those. I've done a couple of businesses where I've done window art. I've done coffee shops. I've done like these little restaurants. So I do like, especially during the holidays, like in Christmas, they always wanted to, you know, make it very like holiday like.
Yeah, the
So
festivity.
that's the stuff I do, but that's, you know, that's temporary.
Yeah, you want something to stay up on the walls, so people take pictures.
Yeah, I wanted to do enough. I want to do an impact that just did, and that's the other thing that I noticed here in San Francisco, which blew me away. There's a lot of respect among artists here, where if you do some kind of piece or a graffiti, it's very rare. I don't know. At least compared to the East Coast, it's very rare where some other artist will defame it or cover it up or something like that. There seems to be an understanding here among artists where this is my wall, and the only person that is going to work on it is there. I've seen some cases where some other artist or some kid will just go over somebody else's work or something like that. But I haven't seen it as often. It's very rare.
It seemed like I don't know. I ain't never been there before. But do y'all have like a lot of festivities or like festivals and stuff that you go
Oh,
on?
way too many.
Oh yeah,
There's, I'm actually going to one today. um,
y'all have them during the week.
yeah, they call it first Thursdays, you know, of the month. So every first Thursday, they close out the street and they just have vendors and, you know, they have DJ playing music and it's kind of a thing. But San Francisco does not run out of festivals or anything. There's always something going on every weekend on different locations of the city.
Have you ever
And that
thought
was
about doing
another
one?
thing that I fell in love with. So if you're an artist that likes to do like, you know, prop up a tent and do festivals and do like, you know, be a vendor and stuff like that, you won't run out of work here. There's almost, especially during like the summer and all throughout, like starting spring all the way up to the fall. It's there's a lot of that going on.
Have you ever tried it, done it, or
I did one festival, and it was under because when I first moved here, it wasn't. It was an opportunity that was given to me. I have to tell you that story too. Um, I back home and before I moved here, I had my own studio in Connecticut, and I was working. I was doing art full time. So I was doing fine art. I was doing whatever I can get my hands on. Whatever business came in, I was doing that. As a part-time job, just to kind of keep the steady, you know, bills paid. I was working for a jewelry company that had a space in the same art studio building that my studio was in. So I did, you know, part-time. So like, you know, 4 hours a day, I would do, you know, work on the jewelry, you know, company and then just walk over to my studio and then spend the rest of the day there and do my
okay?
art.
That's
So,
that's the setup right there.
oh no, that was a dream. I don't know why I walked away from that. But actually, I do know why I walked away, but um, that's even a longer story. So the opportunity came where the owner of the jewelry company said that he's opening up a branch in San Francisco, and he offered me to basically manage it over there and do the work over there. So, but I needed to give him a notice as soon as possible, like within 2 weeks or something like that. And that was a big decision for me because I was like, wow, I'm moving to the West Coast. Never been to the West Coast ever. So
Mm.
I had no family or no friends or anybody that I knew down there, you know. So I was on my own. But it was an opportunity to spread my wings and really see what's out there. And I accepted the offer. I said, you know what, I'll do it. I said I'll give you like 6 months. See if I like it. If not, then I'll have to move back and and then continue what I was doing in Connecticut. And he's like, all right, cool. So we'll do that. But 2 weeks into it, I was like, no, I'm staying here. Literally 2 weeks after I moved here, I called my mom and I said, Mom, I'm staying here. I was like, I'll come and visit for the holidays, or whenever I can, but this is where I'm staying. I was like,
That's a big leap though.
it
You know,
was,
to
it
not know
was,
anyone and to just jump up and move over there.
yeah. I felt like it was the right opportunity for me at that time. Um, because I wasn't tied in. I wasn't in a relationship. I didn't have any kids. What I'm saying, and I had my own thing going on, and I was like, you know what, what's stopping me?
Yeah,
Nothing,
nothing
just
tying you
myself.
down. Yeah, no
You know
tie
what I'm
down.
saying? So I did it. I realized that, and then like 8 months afterwards, they had to shut down the business, and I'm like, oh no! And they're like, well, we promised you a job back in Connecticut. What I'm saying? And I was like, I feel like I was like, I haven't really given myself an opportunity to to see what my potential is in this city to do that. And I felt like I was already getting really good at connecting and networking with people there and stuff. And I took a chance. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a chance and try to see if I can find something to survive here, um, and see if I can stay here long enough to say, okay, I tried, it didn't work out, move back,
Yeah.
but I wanted to give that because I was already here. So I ended up getting a short-lived construction job where I was like the do everything everybody in the construction business but didn't want to do, cleaning up, demolition, doing it's a very heavy work. And then on my free time, I was doing my art, and going out there to art exhibits and connecting to the art industry back here. Um, and then got a bit more steady job working as a baker, which I still am working as a baker in a market here. And that's been able to help me survive here. Um, uh, my dream, obviously, is to go back to doing art full time, just like I was doing it before. I have my own studio in my own apartment, which is another blessing, to be honest, because people know how expensive it is to live in here. Um, it is it is very expensive, and to be able to survive and pay rent on my own and have my studio here and still do my art here and there is something that I don't take for granted.
Yeah.
But it's something that it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of focus and dedication, and I'm very fortunate that I've connected with a few people here in San Francisco, specifically Rich Stilts, which I think you've had an interview with him too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He was like he gets me gigs and stuff like that, and I
Only
love him for
problem with
that.
Rich is he's a 49er fan.
Yeah,
That's
you don't like
that's,
that.
that's what me and Rich differ at right there.
Yeah, he's a big 49ers fan.
Yeah.
I definitely know that. Um, but he's like the most amazing human being. He is an awesome
Yeah,
dude.
he's a real cool person. I like
No,
him.
yeah, him, his wife, his kids, they're all great people. Um, Through him, I've met other artists too that when doing party gigs like Paulie Chromatic,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Paulie.
So
Which
I
one?
did a couple of gigs with Paulie and stuff like that, and then eventually I got connected with Airbrush Brothers through Chino. Actually, Chino ended up connecting me with them, and since then I've been able to survive here because if I'm not, baking bread, during the day, and I'm not doing art, I'm doing some gig, on the weekend or something like that, and that's what helping me.
I think maybe I need to start going to the bakery and get bread because nothing's real out here. None of the food is real, so rather at least go that way. Y'all don't have all the chemicals and whatnot in the bread.
Yeah. No, a lot of people don't even do it because they hate the hours. I mean, I'm starting at 2 a.m. in the morning when I clock in.
Wow.
People are just getting out of the nightclubs
Yeah,
to
you
do
going
that.
into work.
Yeah, they're not even going to work. So I'm going to work. But I like those hours, to be honest, because I'm already out at 10:30 a.m.
So you
And
have a full whole day.
yeah, it's like I feel more productive that way. Because usually when I did have a shift that was later, um, where I got out, in the afternoon, you're kind of dead tired and you only have a few hours left of light, you know what I'm saying? And it's nighttime, you want to go to bed. And you really don't, um, if you're trying to hustle and try to get like, your art thing going, um, it's really tough to find the energy and the inspiration to do that when you're
Yeah,
working all day like that. So if I get it out of the way early in the morning, the rest of the day is great.
yeah,
You
you got
know?
the rest of the day to do whatever
Yeah,
you want to do.
exactly. And
Like
then
go to
already
this
by
festival today.
yeah,
I go to
I
this
mean
festival the first Thursday.
yeah, yeah.
The so were you there in COVID during COVID? You were in San Francisco in COVID.
Yes. And that baking job is what saved me from surviving too, because a lot of the artists that I knew back then, they they were stuck at home, and some of them were able to survive. I know, like they still were getting business, but the majority of people that I knew were like struggling because they weren't getting as much business, obviously, party gigs and business like that. Um, that's where my run of going to SEMA shows ended at 2020.
They
Because I
can mess a lot of people's stuff up, man. They cut a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
and I never gotten invited back to do the SEMA shows, which is fine because that was mainly more automotive uh, geared to it, but it was great to intermingle with a lot of like-minded artists there,
yeah.
because you got Coast Airbrush there that goes there and
Oh
running
yeah,
off.
you're in California, so you're close to all of that.
Yeah, so I was exposed to those guys, and it was great to run into all those artists and stuff like that. Um, and I missed that aspect of it. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe I'll get invited again. But yeah, that was tough on a lot of artists. That for me, I was at least I had that full time job, and that helped me, and that was an essential because that's the other thing. A lot of people lost a lot of jobs too that weren't just airbrushing. So um, because I was
Yeah, we had
working,
all.
I was doing an essential type of job. I was able to
Oh
still,
yeah,
get its
I was
paycheck.
liking it. I would like being at home. I closed my because I was working. I had a mall store, so I didn't have to work all those hours. So I was just at home chilling. That's why I started the podcast because we had to close down and we were bored at home. So I was like, let's start a podcast. We talk to other artists around.
Yeah.
Get some of the people that.
Um, well, I started getting serious into it I think pretty much everybody starts with like t-shirt art, um, because that seems to be the simplest way. I had the art background, so I did. It was a combination of t-shirt art, illustration, and some fine art here and there. Um, then I dabbed into a little bit more complicated stuff with the automotive. Um, I I was a type of artist where I'm like jack of all trades. You know what I'm saying? So I was trying out everything. I would say my evolution on how I changed, I would say, my interest or my style of work. Went from t-shirt art to fine art to like realism, automotive, um, to back to fine art again. Uh, and now I'm back into doing t-shirt art as a
Yeah.
weekend thing, which I never thought I would go back
What's
to my
crazy is
beginnings.
t-shirt. I think t-shirt artwork is better than any of them because it's always going to be
Yeah.
around, and it's easier, it's faster money as opposed to doing cars or like portraits. I
I
think
just never thought I would go back into it because when I started doing that, it was in its heyday when t-shirt, like getting airbrush t-shirt was the thing to do. That was the style. You know,
yes,
especially in the hip hop industry, everybody was just getting t-shirts done everywhere. It was just like the style. And I thought, oh, that style will never go back into it again. I would say the West Coast have preserved it more than the East Coast for me as far as t-shirt art. Other than maybe Southern East, like maybe in Florida, they probably kept it pretty good. Um, but when I moved here to the West Coast, I realized, okay, so that industry is still alive and well. Because I wasn't doing any like party events back east. I wasn't doing like t-shirt art for so long that I was just like I thought it was dead in a sense. At least that's my experience on that, my perspective. And moving back here brought me back to that world again, and I love it. I love going back into that.
yeah. I was going to ask you about how does it feel to get back into that fast-paced t-shirt artwork? When you do those parties, it's fast-paced and it's you know
I
you
I I actually like it better than I did before for some reason. Maybe because I've matured more into it. Um, Back then, my mind was very focused on because when I do like party events, it's already like a set price. It doesn't matter. That's already kind of like paid for ahead of time in a sense. As opposed to running a business where you're hoping that foot traffic comes in and you're
yeah yeah
doing that. And even if it's fast paced, you have a quota to kind of meet, every day. So that was probably the stress that I had back then, where it was like I need to meet this quota sort of every week or every day. So it was a little different, the experience and the feeling. Now it's just fun for me.
yeah.
It's like I love getting these gigs and I love doing it. I mean, the money's really great. Um, I can't complain about that.
Did
But
you have to did you have to rework your easel and make you a new easel, travel easel? Or
oh,
you
I here's the funny thing. And I'm still in the progress of that.
it never
I've
ends.
like redesigned because since I don't own a car here in San Francisco. Everything everywhere I go is all commute. And San Francisco makes it very easy to get anywhere in San Francisco without a car. Their bus transit system and their what they call the BART is their train system. And then if it's not any of that, is you got Lyft and Uber, that you can go anywhere. So when I started getting these party gigs, I realized I need my stuff to be as simple, as compact, as mobile as possible. And then for me to be able, so I needed to be able to fit easily into any car, trunk of car that I get a Lyft ride from. I wanted to be able to roll out, roll in easily if I needed to grab a train or a bus or something like that. So I've lucked out enough to get this like sort of traveling makeup case with wheels
Hmm.
where I put all my paints, all my stuff that I need to there. Um, and then I just carry on this really small easel that I just put against that whole case, and I'm good to go. And then the other thing is just a small cart for my compressor, and I keep redesigning things to carry
Yeah,
less. You know what I'm saying?
you
And
never
that's
finish
why
it.
That's why when they sign me up for a gig, they're like, "What are we doing? We're doing hats. Are we doing just colors? What kind of?"
Oh
So
yeah,
that I unload as much as possible, so it's the lighter weight. Um, when you have a car, you don't care. You bring extra stuff, and it doesn't matter to you because it's, whatever you don't need, you leave in the car. With me, it's like I want to lug as least as possible, but have everything that I need.
yeah.
So
Because you gotta
that's
have a way to paint hats. You gotta have a way to paint shirts. You gotta have a way to paint socks,
yeah,
fanny packs. You gotta have a
yeah.
way to do.
So
Come on.
that's the thing. That's why I always make sure. What are we doing? Oh, only hats. Great. I'll just bring whatever I have to do hats. I don't have to bring the shirt boards. I don't have to bring all the other
Yeah.
stuff. So, but I have that depending on the gig. And then there's some gigs that is everything. Oh, we're doing tote bags, t-shirts, hoodies, and hats. And I'm like, oh, jeez. I have to bring all
Load
this
it up.
stuff now. I have to bungee cord everything, together.
I'm trying
So,
to, yeah, I try to be a minimalist when I do it too, because I try to carry as less as possible.
oh
Have
yeah.
everything stored in one little thing. Darwin
Everybody
said,
that's done a gig with me, they notice I simplify everything as much as I can. I
yeah,
don't bring if I don't have to, and if I'm not, I know I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to bring it in.
yeah. Darwin said, how did you get sponsored? Any other sponsorships in the works?
Um, that's a very good question. Because I think that depends on who the sponsor is and what they're looking for in an artist. Um, I only been affiliated with ETAC and Grex. Um, and it started with ETAC. And Bill Edwards was the one that contacted me because he saw me in one of those, I can't remember what forum. And he saw me give a lot of airbrush advice to other artists and stuff like that. And just from reading stuff, I guess he just liked the way I was. I was very I would say non-political in a sense where if I gave advice to use a certain product, it was just because of what I like doing. But I was never saying this is better than that. It doesn't because you don't know. Every artist is different. They all use different products for whatever their reasons are, and they all use their own thing. Um, so that was, I would say, for as an advice to get sponsored, just be yourself. Do what you can. Be the type of person where if somebody that is looking to sponsor an artist sees something in you that they like or they feel that will work with their product, um, and
Do you contact them or do they contact you?
I've never contacted them. That I it's always been through networking. You know, it's like I got in touch with Grex because ETAC was in touch with them, and then they recommended them to me, I guess, and then that's how I ended up meeting Raymond, who ran the Grex airbrush department. And they were the ones that were flying me to Vegas to do the SEMA shows through them, and they're fantastic. And I still love their product. I still I haven't been in touch with them the longest, and that's bad on me. But it, if I think the best thing is uh, about getting sponsored if they want somebody that looks like they will represent their product well. Um, Somebody that obviously is sociable. If they're looking to take you to expos, they want somebody that they can see. Oh, well, this guy's very talkative. He's really good with people talking. He's
I
really
couldn't do
well.
it. I don't like talking
That's
to
the thing.
people.
If you're not a people person, they're not going to take you to expos
Yeah,
because
that's why I don't
that's
have no
all it is. It's
sponsors. That's why I don't
thousands
have
of
no
people
sponsors.
coming up to you. Oh wow, are staring at you and looking at your work and stuff like that. But if you're that quiet type, whatever, don't bother me kind of person, they don't.
They'll
They're
walk
not really
towards me
into
and be
that.
like, nah. I
Yeah,
walk
I've
back and
I've
be like,
always been. Here's the thing. I think that type of test was when I started working in the mall, where when the guy first put me in the mall to do airbrushing, he put my station all the way in the back of the store, all right, where I was hidden. Like people had to walk in and really find me back there. And I told him, I said, you got to put me right on the window, dude. I was like, you don't understand. Airbrushing is like an attraction. It's like it's
It's the
entertainment.
show.
It's the show. I was like, I said, the second you put me in the window, you're gonna see a difference as far as flow of people coming in the store and stuff like that. And that's how it worked. I mean, it got to the point where because I specifically put my station right next to the window in an angle so that they're standing in the window, they can see me work right there. So they're on the side of me, but they're not in my way because there's a glass, in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
So, um, and mall security had to like break up the crowd because obviously when one person's on the window look at me, the other person looks, and then all of a sudden people are like
Yeah,
looking
blocking the
at
walkway.
the artist, doing that stuff, and they see the show, and they're like, we gotta keep the flow going in here, because you guys are blocking the way. So, and then they realize, and that's where it was my test to see if I was a people person or anything like that, because people are going to be constantly asking you questions and seeing stuff, and I didn't mind. There's artists where they need to be like they put their headphones on and be alone,
Go
and
down.
they don't want to be bothered until they're done. You know what I'm saying? So that's a quality that I think one needs to have to be able to be sponsored. Now, that's depending on what the sponsor is looking for. There are sponsors that will sponsor an artist that the artist spends the entirety time in their studio and do not interact with anybody. So it depends on what they're looking for. But for the majority of the time, airbrush sponsors want to take you out of your studio or your business and put you in a high foot traffic area so that you can promote their product more. So you need to be, I think, number one, a people person, somebody that doesn't mind uh, getting interrupted with their work as they're working with it, um, and obviously like their product too, and just be honest with their stuff.
Yeah.
So because if any other sponsors came up to me and I didn't really like their product, I'd just be straightforward. I'd be transparent. I was like, I just don't. This is not working for me. You know what I'm saying? And you know,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to bend over backwards just so I can get a sponsorship or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. The I don't know if you've seen the last couple of I don't know. So you don't get like I'll ask you anyway, but you don't get the like people asking you to do shirts for them daily. How do you think about the AI now in the designs as far as airbrushing or as in anything? What do you feel? How you feel about AI?
Um, I see the positive things that AI can do to help out as far as artistically, but there's so much negative stuff that um, if you're not really careful and if it's not uh, in a way controlled, because you'll see me posting some negative AI stuff on my Instagram from time to time because I just see like there's this behind the scenes things that we're not really being informed about that,
Yeah.
but we're obviously talking on the artistic sense. I mean, um, as far as in the art industry, um, anything that's new for me, I look at it as a tool, not something that's going to replace what I do. Okay, so I've never particularly worked with AI um, to do my work or anything because with my background, my art background, and all the experience I've done with stuff like that, I never really felt the need that this is going to help me out in that sense. Um, I don't know. I still haven't really fully decided if I'm against it or support it.
If you get it bombarded on you every day, every time somebody asks you, "Hey, can you do a shirt?" and they send you an AI design, it gets
Really,
annoying. And then you
Oh,
get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to charge you a lot more because it's a lot more work. Or then they'll
yeah.
sit there and be like, well, I'm a human. It's not gonna look identical to this. I'm a human.
Well, the same thing. I wouldn't say AI, but I've gotten situations where a client will come and send me an image that was computer generated, and they're like, "Can you do this for me on either a canvas or shirt?" And I tell them right off the bat, I was like, "There's a lot of aspects of this that is not going to transfer really well when I do it with airbrush, just because this was digitized and it was done by a computer. So there's a lot of accuracy on stuff in here. This is all going to be freehand, saying. So I have to tell them that my version, um, it's going to be a bit rougher compared to what you're showing me and stuff like that. But it depends on the situation. Um, but yeah, I see where on your end, you're going to get a lot of that. People where AI is just taking over and trying to push that onto people. People will see that, yeah. So I
Man,
haven't experienced that yet, but I have a feeling that I will. And then I
it's
probably
coming,
have to
brother.
see it. What's that?
It's coming.
It's
It's
coming. I
coming.
know.
Skynet. Hey, so okay, so been over an hour, so that's went kind of quick.
Oh, yes.
So I asked you a couple of more questions, like advice for beginners. Oh, do you have any other questions you want to ask before I ask the last one? Anything you want to bring
Uh,
up?
no, I
Got
don't think
anything
I
coming
have.
up?
No. As far as what for me, like what's coming up is,
Yeah, you have anything you want to talk about? Anything coming up? Something you excited about? You ready to do? You said you have a gig tomorrow, so tomorrow
well,
or this
Saturday,
weekend?
not tomorrow. Saturday, I got a gig with Airbrush artist. But I got like a gig every weekend now. Um, but as far as me, I haven't done any like exhibit shows yet. This past 6 months, and usually every so many months I'm doing like a show, like an art show like that. But I've been away doing the fine art because I've been doing like background commission work, which is behind the scenes kind of thing. Um, what I do, what I do can't wait, or I can't wait to get back to is doing art full time. When I do that, that's when I think you'll see more of me on on social media because I'll be spending more time in my studio, spending more time promoting myself, spending more time connecting with the art world. Um, right now, this is like whenever I'm free, I'm gonna have free time, and I miss that. It's killing me. It's like it's in a sense because now that I'm doing more gigs and I'm connecting with people, it's like I'm getting that fever again, where it's like
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to do this when I wake up until I go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? And that's one
Have
that
you ever
will
put
tie
the?
into
Oh,
what my advice to beginner artists, at least airbrush artists, is to just I always tell anybody it doesn't even have to be in art or be an airbrush artist, but find something you love first. Find something that you feel like you love doing first, and then because there's money to be made on anything. You know what I'm saying? My cousin used to say, if you love shining shoes, be the best damn shoe shine guy around the area, and you'll never feel like you work a day in your life when you're actually doing something that you love doing. And that's something that I've experienced before, and I'm still sort of living it, part time. But when you love what you're doing, it just doesn't feel like work. You know, there's times where there's a lot of hard work that you have to do and late nights and stuff like that. But I wouldn't take any other way. I wouldn't do anything else but this. You know.
yeah. That's pretty good. Well, I appreciate you getting the chance to get on with us, man. Finally got you
Yeah,
on.
yeah. I totally enjoy this. This is like my first time I ever
Been on
been on a
podcast.
podcast or anything like that. So
Yeah,
this is fun.
yeah. I highly suggest go back and listen to some of the other ones. Like I said, there's some really good ones out there.
Yeah, no, you got a lot of them on there. It's like whenever I have free time, I'm listening to as
Yeah.
many as I could. But this is a
I
good
feel you.
thing. You keep doing that, man, because that's the way to connect all these artists with other artists and stuff like that. You know, this is like this is the level of what I was doing when I was going into forums or reading magazines. So this version is great because you're actually getting to see the artists and hear them and get
I like to hear the
advice like you said
origin
from
stories
them
of
and
every
how they
artist.
started.
I like to hear
Yeah,
the origin stories
that's
of how they
very fun
started.
to.
And yeah,
Yeah, that's the
hey,
best
well,
part. Yeah, really.
yeah. I appreciate your time, man. Thanks a lot. Enjoy your
Likewise.
first Thursday. I need to go to another one.
Yeah.
All right, have a
All
good one.
right.
Thank you.
You too. I mean, thank you. All right.